This afternoon goes and tomorrow. I think my job is to make sure you stay steady and even keeled. Number one for Matthew, but for our group. And, of course you want him to feel as good as possible and be able to lead the way. But if the circumstances don't allow that, then we have a lot of confidence in Jimmy and Stetson and in our group as a whole.
Yeah, referring to Jimmy G. Backup, Rams reporter Sarah Barshop joins us now. Sarah, it's been kind of a weird vibe around there. All these reports that Stafford might practice before now, and then it didn't happen, and now he's back out there. So what did you see from him on the practice field today?
It felt like a big day for this Rams team, seeing Matthew Stafford out on the practice field in pads for the first time during training camp. We watched him go out, he warmed up and took part in individual practices, and then he did 26 plays in their team drill. Now again, for the first time in a padded practice, we saw Matthew Stafford throwing to new receiver Davante Adams. It's been a lot of excitement from his teammates and even head coach Sean McVay. I watched him walk up to Stafford at one point during practice. It seemed like he checked in with him, patted him on the helmet, and he walked away with a big smile on his face. And as you heard, Sean McVay said they're going to take it one day at a time with Stafford. Didn't want to put a timeline on anything, but he did say that they want to make sure it's the right situation and very fluid with how they handle this. It's been a long time, a lot of weeks of training camp, but they want to make sure that he's ready for that Week 1 game against the Texans.
Sarah, thanks. They finished the preseason against the Browns on Saturday, opened up against a very tough defense. They're going to face the Texans in the opener. Dan the Man, your thoughts about him being back on the field and especially starting to get some work with Davante?
Dan the Man.
How it responds, how he feels coming off of the practice today. And then, you heard Sarah mention it. One of the great things that made the Rams run with Stafford so impressive was his connection with Cooper Kupp. And Davante Adams has been the guy that's kind of been pegged to replace Cooper Kupp. And that connection has lost a lot of reps, candidly. So I'll be interested in not only how he feels physically, but also how quickly he can get the ball would come out of Matthew's hands before Cooper would be expecting the football coming out of his cut. So how quickly that relationship builds, more so than as much so as how he feels coming off of the workout today.
Man, honestly, toughness doesn't have an expiration date, but recovery does.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. That's what it's about. Matthew Stafford is as tough as any player that's ever played in this league. And we will all think back to some of those Detroit Lions days where this dude fought through everything to just make one throw to try to win a game. But it's about the recovery. What happens after you play a game and you've been hit a few times in the pocket? Can you now protect yourself with movement and having the ability to be mobile within the pocket, manipulated? And so those are the things that Matthew Stafford is going to have to deal with. And I talked to Davante early on in camp, and we asked him about missing those reps. He said, what we have to do is get to the point where the confidence level is high enough to know I can win when double team. I can win against this coverage.
You can trust me to throw it.
And to Dan's point, they've missed some of those reps that build that rapport.
Yeah, I think everybody just kind of nods away because they've been playing so long. And Dan knows, and RC, the rhythm and the timing that you need to have going into a season, especially early, because you're still feeling out what this new team and this new offense is going to be like. I'm going to kind of flip it to Sean McVay. He got to be very strategic with Stafford, because the point you made, RC, with the recovery, my issue is the back. If it was any other injury, right, this is a quarterback that is going to take some hits. He's a quarterback that's going to play tough at times, stand late in the pocket to deliver the football, and you're talking about something with a disc in your back that could be damaged in a very serious way.
What happened to Tony Romo?
Same thing.
It was the same thing?
It was a J.J. Watt sack where he ended up kind of bent up the wrong way and never got right from that. Again, that's my concern. Look, if you process in the offseason, you managing this back, even if you're not managing and you just don't feel like you need to have him out here at practice, that's okay for Matthew Stafford. He understands his offense and everything. But it's the season which is my concern, and it's the hits. It's the hits for me.
And in Week 1, it's Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. And it's a back on a 37-year-old quarterback who's taken a lot of hits. And backs don't get better. They linger, but they're always there. Now, here's where the Rams doctors are today. They believe that Matthew Stafford will be okay for opening day. And I'm sure there are pain managing issues that he can go through, mechanisms that he can go through to help shield the pain on game day, and probably will. But the fact of the matter is, doctors think it shouldn't be an issue. They expect him to be out there. But the more time that goes on and the more time that there is missed, And it looks like he was supposed to throw on Saturday. We still never got an actual answer about whether he did. I think the concern level within the Rams rises by the day to the point where now you hear Sean McVay being very careful about any message he delivers. So, yes, I think everybody believes he's going to be out there opening day, but they recognize it's a back, and backs can be temperamental.
We have time for a question.
Yeah, sure. You're obviously in control of the show anyway, so keep going.
Dan, as you prepare, though, with Jimmy G in the background, do you prepare him as a starter every single week?
Jimmy G?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm sure they'll be very conscious of Wednesday, super light on Matthew. Like, I've said this team expects to be playing late in January.
Yeah.
So they're not expecting 17-game season. They're expecting a 20-21 game season.
Yeah.
Is your back going to be okay in that chair?
Hell no.
You going to be all right? Okay. More breaking news coming this afternoon. As first reported by Shefty, the Browns have named Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback when they open against the Bengals on September 7th. Not a surprise, as he's gotten significant first-team reps. Flacco entering his 18th NFL season, and of course, he came off the couch to lead the Browns to the playoffs in 2023. Went 4-1 down the stretch in weeks 13 through 17. He actually led the NFL in passing touchdowns and passing yards. There have been 40 different starting quarterbacks for the Browns since they returned to the NFL in 1999, and he is one of just 3 that has a winning record, which is absolutely insane. Adam, what more can you tell us?
Didn't even play a preseason snap to win the job, has looked good in camp, and everybody thought all along that Joe Flacco was going to be the opening day starter against the Cincinnati Bengals. It's exactly what everybody thought. They weren't going to start Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel, no matter how strong they looked out of the gate. Kenny Pickett's had a hamstring injury. He couldn't compete at full strength. So it had to be Joe Flacco, as much by default as anything else. He's a veteran. He knows the offense. He knows what to expect. It's a tough schedule. The real question isn't that Joe Flacco would be the star. Who's going to be number 2 on opening day? Who's going to be the backup to Joe Flacco? Who's going to be inactive? How's that going to work? They don't have to answer that today. I'm sure they're not going to answer that today. But those are the more interesting questions as the season gets ready to kick off.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how we get those answers at this short juncture and if they're willing to carry 4 quarterbacks. But in the meantime, it's Flacco. What do you see from this offense?
Well, first off, they just didn't want to make a hard decision. Right? Figuring out who's going to be number 2 is going to be a difficult decision. It would have been a much harder decision to figure out which one of those young men would start. And when you look at what the Cleveland Browns are doing, this is why people spin the block in relationships, right? You remember, hey, man, I had a great relationship with this person. Then I moved to this person and it wasn't so good. This person's available on the market again. Let's spin the block and try it, right? And that's what they're doing. They caught fire late in the season 2 years ago with Joe Flacco. You're talking about Kevin Stefanski, a guy who's won the Coach of the Year 2 times. He thinks that he can go out and win games early this season with Joe Flacco. They could be coaching for their jobs. Joe Flacco is what you know. It's the stability that you trust. I think this team will be okay. But I still think this team finds itself in a position where they're going to have to figure out who their franchise quarterback is, whether it's this season or next offseason. And Joe Flacco gets you no closer to that and also no closer to winning a Super Bowl, which should ultimately be the goal of this team.
Yeah, so I would have gone with one of the rookies.
Which one?
I don't know. Because my answer is, I've seen one body of work with Shedeur that was really good, and I've seen one body of work with Dillon Gabriel that was really good. I don't know what the practices have been like, but I do think if you're the Browns, you should walk away encouraged by both of them. And because, to RC's point, wanting to know a little bit more of the future because of the Travis Hunter trade and the 2 first-round picks, I would have taken the rookie. I think the overall perspective of the football team is Kevin Stefanski, who's the head coach and their play caller, once again, does he get back to his roots? No matter if it's Joe Flacco, Shedeur, Gabriel, Kenny Pickett, this was a team that traditionally, under Kevin Stefanski, has run the football incredibly well, the commitment to it, the yards per carry to it. Now, not only are they going to do that, who's the back? Because lost in all of this, they lost their guy. Like Nick Chubb is gone. And so does that become Quinshon Judkins? Is it Jerome Ford?
He still has to figure out some of the stuff off the field.
100%. So part of the Joe Flacco run 2 years ago was they were still running the football really well. Part of Joe Flacco having some success now will be because they get back to running the football really well.
What a performance from Shedeur, I thought, put him in the conversation to see who the backup would be, right? You got a
totally.
you got a depth chart that's listed, boom, boom, boom. But in camp, the real reps happen when you get that opportunity.
Like, I'll be disappointed if one of the rookies is not the backup.
That's my point. That's where I'm going.
Well, Gabriel had 2 turnovers
Exactly.
too. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, again, you assess that. You don't really assess that in a phone booth, because you also have different situations when those games were being played. But ultimately, what you want to do if you're the Cleveland Browns, you want to operate like whoever you name as your second guy is your starter.
Yes.
That's how you want to operate during the season, while it's going on. And when Flacco gives way, or when you feel like this young guy has established himself enough for us to go with him in the season, you pull the trigger right now. Because to RC and Dan's point, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know if your franchise guy is sitting in the locker room until you give him an opportunity to do so. And I think both of those kids did enough. And obviously, Kenny Pickett is still in this conversation as well.
Been injured.
Depending on how much they give credit to what he's done previous to these 2 guys playing. But Shedeur and Dillon Gabriel are in great situations as young quarterbacks.
They should, if I'm them, I burn the boat. And what I mean by that is, if Joe Flacco's my starter, I don't want another veteran in the room.
You want Gabriel?
I want Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders to be the next guy, and we win or lose that way.
I agree.
A few things to keep in mind. Let's keep in mind that they have double ones in 2026 in a quarterback-rich draft. You brought up Quinshon Judkins, the rookie who will not face legal charges. He still has not signed, and because the NFL is investigating his situation, he may not sign until that investigation is complete. So we don't know if and when they'll have Quinshon Judkins available, and they'll have to rely on the other rookie running back, Dylan Sampson. And the last thing I want to mention is, even though they named their starter today, we don't know the backup. I expect the Cleveland Browns to carry 4 quarterbacks.
So they will do that.
4 quarterbacks on their final 53-man roster. I expect they'll have 4 there. They're going to keep both rookies. They're going to keep Flacco. So we're really talking about Kenny Pickett.
What about Pickett?
And I expect he makes the roster because quarterbacks are currency.
What's the Wendy? When Adam says expect, somebody called him.
Or maybe the Cowboys trade for Kenny Pickett.
Or maybe somebody calls about one of the rookie quarterbacks.